But speaking of the Wildcats, another one of these home spots that I'm really curious to get your perspective on. Kentucky projected to be about a 1-point favorite, so pick 'em-ish at Texas A&M. Aggies coming off back-to-back losses against LSU and then at Auburn. We touched on the Tigers a bunch. You would expect, at least from me, Coach, this to be a bounce-back spot here for A&M because Kentucky's shooting about 40% from three, A&M shooting 26% from three. Again, a guy who believes in regression. I think that efficiency is going to rise eventually. And then we touched on offensive rebounding a lot earlier with a team like Houston, or in previous seasons at least. A&M, one of the best offensive rebounding teams in college basketball. Anderson Garcia and Henry Coleman did that a lot against Auburn, even though it may not have shown up in terms of the final score. So how does this game go for you pace-wise or situationally with Kentucky and A&M?
Well, I think at some point, if you're going to win a game like that, if you're A&M, you've got to have Tyrese Radford and Wade Taylor IV on the same page and both have really good games. That has to happen. I don't think you can beat Kentucky if one of those guys has got 22 and the other one's got 8, right? And I also don't think you can beat Kentucky if those two combine and they're shooting in the mid-30s, right? They have 30%. They've got to play together because I don't think Kentucky's front line is going to be something that's an advantage for them over A&M. I think Henry Coleman is active. He can move. I think it's going to be interesting. Are they going to put Trey Mitchell in the pick and roll? Okay, because that's not a strength of his, and not just put Aaron Bradshaw's man in the pick and roll. If big key for A&M is not just the defense. The defense for them is going to start with their shot selection, because if Kentucky can get them down in the shot clock and they take bad shots, Kentucky can blitz you on their break. Obviously they run better at home, but they'll run on the road, right? So if you play into their hands and let them get the ball up the floor and let Edwards and Reeves get ahead and let Wagner and Dillingham take off and Shepard get loose, I mean, that's a problem. So it's not about you have to play slow if you're Texas A&M. Buzz can't get to the end of that game, go back and look at the film and say, man, we took 8, 9, 10, 11 bad shots in this game. You can't have that. Like if you've got to be able to get to the foul line, get on the offensive glass. I still don't think Kentucky's a great defensive blockout team. I just don't. I think another big area that A&M has got to get better at, and at the same time Kentucky's got to get better at if they're going to be better. They got to get guard rebounding blockouts, and the A&M guards got to rebound the ball, because that's not a strength of Kentucky's. Kentucky can guard you, but if you spread them out, okay, and you make them play one-on-one and you can get the over helps, now you have a chance. Now you have to make the shots. But at the same time, A&M can't fall in love with the three to where their rebounding advantage, their offensive rebounding advantage, when Washington, Garcia, people like that are in the game, Coleman can't play as well, right? Because if you take a bunch of threes and all of a sudden the Kentucky guards are getting long rebounds and they're gone, that break can hurt you in a hurry. So that's going to be a very, very interesting game. I would guess Buzz is going to have a couple different ways to attack inside of that game, like he usually does.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Kentucky has got – this is going to probably have to be – the Florida defensive game plan was pretty solid, but they gave Kugel and guys like that too much freedom. This is going to have to probably be Kentucky's best perimeter defensive game to this point for them to win that game.
Yeah, and you wonder, you brought up three-point shooting for A&M, or at least not falling in love with the three. Wade Taylor, 0 of 8 from 3 against Auburn. So either they're open shots and he missed like he did a couple times against Auburn, or in general, collectively, they kind of fell in love with the three. So very curious to see how that plays out on both ends at the perimeter.